Welcome to episode 33 of our board game podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly, which we are still smashing through our Frosthaven campaign with our recaps, scenario discussions, and topics centered around the game. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me as my co-host, a man who I can say with 100% confidence is an incredibly smart person, as his ketchup storing choices are top tier, and he will always be welcomed in my home. Say Gaz. Say Gaz. Say hi, Pantry Gaz.
Hi, guys. I'm going to leave the pantry part off, but yes, we are Sauce in Cupboard Pantry Brothers, and appreciate you are also a highly intelligent person that makes good life decisions.
And there goes our listener base. Look, I did some research on this. I don't have it up with me at the moment, but according to Heinz and Googling and all of that, it's kind of split based on polls. It's kind of like dead at 50-50.
Wait, split as in Heinz say you should, and then the internet says you shouldn't?
No, based on where people are storing it. So 50% of people are storing it in the cupboard or on the shelf, and 50% are storing it in the fridge. And that's not what it feels like, though, because every person that's telling me is telling me it belongs in the fridge.
Yeah, and I even had someone reach out to me. I can't remember who it was that said that they will put an unopened bottle in the fridge in advance, knowing they're going to open it soon so that it's cold when they put it on their food. I'm like, that's the worst part of like having it in the fridge. Like, I get from a preserving perspective that maybe there's a reason to put it in the fridge, but like the side effect of that is that it's cold and crap. But they're actually just like choosing the coldness as part of the benefit of putting it. I just don't understand people. Bunch of savages.
One of our listeners, Makota, actually reached out. And look, I know that I'm not going to stay off topic this whole time, but this is really important. They added that chocolate, and some people store chocolate in the fridge.
Well, this is going to be controversial.
Wait, do you do that?
I do put chocolate in the fridge sometimes, yeah.
No.
Yep.
Okay. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We will dissect that at a later date, because that is, I'm not going to say wrong, but I thought you were smart.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, let's not discuss that now, or do we?
No,
No, that's
we're
not
not
a
going
rabbit
into
hole
that
that we
now.
choose to explore. All right, no worries.
No, but it's definitely opened up a whole can of worms. So on today's episode, we're going to cover solo scenarios in Frosthaven.
Yeah.
We're going to have a little chat about the personal quest system. I like it when I go over all this because you're learning about it at the same time.
100%. I'm just like, oh, this sounds like a good episode. I'm glad I'm here.
I have a segment called If We Could Take It Back, and a little campaign status as we are officially 1 year in, 1 year and 2 days, but still 1 year in. And just, seeing where we're at. I think I did this a while back, but I've got some other info in regards to it.
Ooh.
So, this week we didn't get to play because we mentioned Mark was cashing in his one Monday he can't attend per year. And he's got it out of the way, and I
thought it was per decade.
Maybe. I just haven't spoken to him. I don't know if he won anything.
He went I don't even know if he was going sideways. I think he was just like barracking for someone else going sideways.
Cheer squad?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, that's what it looked like from the photos he sent of him with pom-poms, but...
So, yeah, we had Phil and Gaz still came over to my house so that we could sit around and talk. And then it quickly devolved into let's play some solo scenarios so we didn't have to talk to each other. And, it's a really interesting thing because prior to, the Frosthaven solo scenarios that we have done, we've never, I don't believe, done solo scenarios. And ultimately, I don't think they're in the base game because they came in a separate folder. I don't know if that's included. Probably not if you buy it retail. But it's a separate
base
folder.
Game of Frosthaven?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's separate. And I know Gloomhaven had them. None of us, as far as I know, looked at them. Do they actually have them as an option on the computer?
No, they don't actually. But I did do the solo scenario for the Quartermaster.
How?
At your house.
What?
Yeah.
I don't remember this. Did I even have them?
Well, yeah, I did it. So, yes, you did.
Did you just make one up?
Yeah, I was just basically just got a tile and I put some things on it. I moved around a little bit, and then I gave myself some free items.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, I
Oh,
thought
I
that thought that was what you did, right? That's a solo scenarios, and I get to solo create it and solo run it.
yeah, kind of. You must have done it on your own because it's solo. Because I don't remember it at all.
No, I
So,
think it was when Matt was there. He set it up. Me and him did it. So it was just after I came back after my
ah,
hiatus because I retired my character pretty quickly and then
mm.
played a couple of different ones. And then that's when they came out. They came out the solo scenarios, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give this a go because I must have got there early and we were organizing dinner or something like that.
I just don't remember having them in a booklet or anything like that. Did he find them online and then set it up according to something online?
I don't know. Like
Uh,
Gloomhaven, I was even more hands off with the setup than I am in Frosthaven. And just for the record, I barely do anything. It's
you're
mostly
very
Daddy.
hands off.
Well, hey, I do sometimes. I
I meant
remember,
I meant that
hey,
in a compliment.
just on a that's because I mean, it's a compliment that you don't do anything or help. Like, it takes a
I
lot
like setting
of
it up, so
like
it's
character to
fine.
sit there watching me do all the hard work and not
No,
actually offer to
I
help.
enjoy
Like, good
setting it
on you.
up. I enjoy
What?
setting it up. I enjoy setting it up.
I know, and I mean, the one time, just as a side note, the one time that I've gone to set up a scenario, which was this week when I was setting up my solo scenario, where I need to find one tile,
Mm.
one tile, and I managed to not even not find it right in that booklet thing you've got of them, but also point out that the organization system that they have them in is weird and broken, and you didn't understand because you're like, I've never seen that before.
Wait,
So
what?
when we were looking through the thing and it was like
Oh
12,
yeah.
13, 14, 15, 15 to 17, you're like, but then it's like 17
I've
to 20 or something like that.
never noticed it before. The way
Yeah.
the
So,
accordion map thing has
mm,
them has the tabs of which tiles go where, and it says 14, well 14 to 16 or something like that. And
yeah,
then
it's
there's
like
another one
14
that's
to
15 and
16.
16
Yeah, isn't
or
it
something like
14
that.
to 16? And then the next one's like 16 to 18 or something like
I
that.
can't remember. It was
Yeah.
they were just double dipping, and
Yeah.
I
And I
never
was like,
noticed it.
I'm super confused, right? And then I gave up and you found it. And it's like, well, I'm never doing this again.
No,
But yeah, but anyway, going back to Gloomhaven solo scenarios, yeah, I definitely did it because I remember it. But I didn't know that you hadn't done any others.
no, I didn't even know I had them. That's what I mean. I was under the impression I didn't have them at all. That they were a future thing that came maybe with the reusable stickers and all that. Maybe it was third party. I'm not too sure, but
Yeah, look, they probably released them online, right? Like all the other errata stuff.
possibly that may have been how Matt found it and did it that way
Yeah.
because that would make the most sense. I can't imagine anyone's ordered it and then set it up at my house because I definitely didn't order them.
Or I don't know. Are we gonna go play the game of games you forgot you ordered?
No, no, no.
Like,
I actually because we got Gloomhaven first edition. I
mm.
don't think they existed then.
No, they wouldn't have when you bike backed it.
No, yeah. So therefore, I
But I
wouldn't have
mean,
gotten
th-
them.
they could have come out midway through, right? Like the erratas and said, like, "Hey, here's a thing," and you've clicked buy now, and then
No,
forgotten that
I
you
didn't
bought
do
it.
that. No, no. Okay,
Uh,
moving on, moving on. So we got to do solo scenarios, and I was contemplating setting them up side by side, but instead we decided to do mine first, and by that I mean I decided to. I had it set up ready to go, and I helped set it up for me. And I had Phil on one side. He was carefully monitoring the monster deck. He had to click draw a card every now and then, which was really good. While I ran the app on my phone, and Gaz stood there and dealt with monster movement and loot tokens and all that kind of stuff. And look, if anyone's done the snowflake solo scenario, it is really tricky and really brutal. And the very first time I attempted this, now they are recommended that you do these at level 5, and they're used as a bit of a way to challenge your knowledge of the character and challenge how well you can utilize all the different cards and actually play with them. They're meant to be difficult so that I don't know many people who are supposed to just one shot them. And I actually recorded a session of me doing this a while back, and I've gone back and done it again this time. And we ran it twice. And the first one was really frustrating because it was actually going off to a decent start. The Snowflake solo scenario has these, because the Snowflake's all about pushing and pulling. A lot of its tool set is around pushing and pulling and manipulating allies and placement and all of that kind of stuff. There were these workers on the board near where I start, and there are these runes. There are these spots on the grounds, and they're called power runes or ancient runes or something. And when one of these workers, who don't move by the way at all, once one of them is occupying the same space as one of these runes, I get to add +1 to my attack and my pet's attacks and all of that kind of stuff. And the game starts off with 2 workers on the rune, so automatically from the very get go, you get a +2. On the other side of the board, you've got 2 wind demons, you've got 2 frost demons, and you've got one of the Algox snow speakers. And, it's 5 of them. It's fairly tough. And this is just painting a picture of where it's at. So your job is essentially eliminate everything. And there are going to be more spawns of wind demons and frost demons and a snow speaker right at the end. Roughly about 10, 11 rounds of staying alive while you're having all this done. And at the very beginning, I worked out that it was all about trying to get one of the workers to move up from the back row onto one of the runes, which I kept doing after I worked that out. And then using a card I've never used with any of you guys, which is a bottom push for pushing all your allies and give everyone bless. And I was like, this is really good because I can actually get to the point where I've got 5 workers on runes after the second round, and my birds are up. And I go into this. Now, what makes this really brutal is the creatures that we're up against are push and pull heavy. And they like to walk up and they like to knock my workers off the runes. And once they come off, I don't go out of my way to put them back on again because that's too difficult. So it actually became a real, in my head, a little bit of an RNG fest of whether they're going to pull and push things off. And Gaz actually really helped me in this. Not having him there the first time, he helped me see something very different with this, in that because you get to see where the creatures are, what they're going to do when you draw your cards after initiatives are done. When I'm pushing these workers, I can push them one tile not enough, and knowing that the enemies were going to pull them towards them and actually put them right on the tile, and that was amazing. This gives me a lot of damage, and then the rest of it is how much damage can I do with various pets. And I'll just say this right now, it really came down to keeping the birds alive, which is really hard to do because they're on 3 health, and some really lucky draws from the enemies meant that one of the birds survived, and that gave me enough damage momentum to push forward, prevent the guys from falling off their runes, and clear the actual scenario. And I
Yeah,
was super stoked.
because you had like your birds were hitting for like 7 damage or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Like
they were
they were like
hitting.
bone hordes. Like you had
Yeah,
2 of them. Yeah,
yeah, and
it's
this was the
fun.
thing. Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned though, like these scenarios are designed to test how well you know the character, right? Like a variety of different cards and all that. You didn't use the bottom of birds once, which is weird. I was like, whoa, whoa, what's that? Like, do you want to give everything jump and move too? Like, that sounds great. Or
no.
+2 move. And then it just came down to you, like, short rest recycling that 1 damage card that hit 3 targets.
Yeah. So there's a Whipping
Like,
Gale, which is a level 6 card, which I didn't get until obviously level 6. And when I got
yeah.
that, I was like, oh my god, this is going to help me win my thingy. And that's the reason I failed the first time, is because I played it, short rest, played it, short rest. I ran out of cards. I realized that I had to do,
But no, jokes aside though, yeah, it is cool it was cool to see. I didn't get to see you play through the first lot. I think I might have watched most of one of the videos to get an idea about what the scenario looked like. But yeah, it was cool to see you do it and trying to figure it all out and I guess add a little bit of a puzzle to the game, which is a bit different to I guess how you play normally.
Well, this is the thing. This is the part that I was mentioning earlier. It kind of helps you learn your character a little bit and all of that. That's what it's in theory, and I was excited to try that. Apart from the beginning where it was getting the workers onto the things, after that it was just how to attack and pray for RNG gods to not screw me over by killing my
Yeah.
pets. It's like it's a system to teach you more about playing your character, but didn't achieve it with me. And at the beginning, I was like, oh, I have to try all these different things when I was failing over and over again. And when I finally got it, I was like, oh, it felt less about doing the right thing and more about hoping that the cards flipping are going to be good.
Yeah, like you got to the point where your skill you'd reached your skill like ceiling and you were now just it was a repetition thing, right? Like you had worked out the puzzle pieces and
Right.
you just needed to make sure that either you got really good RNG or you just didn't get really bad RNG.
Yeah, okay. That's a
And
good way of putting it.
I think it happened once. I think actually maybe both attempts where one of the wind demons or ice demons, I'm sure I've got that wrong, drew a disarm.
Mm.
And I think it ended up being the case where it was going to hit you, but then it ended up dying, and it didn't. So it worked out really well. But a game came up, and we were talking about it, me and Phil, of you know lower player counts, stuns, disarms, things like immobilize that stop you from getting and using your cards are just really bad, right? Because it's actually action economy. You just lose
Mm.
that. And in a solo scenario,
It's
it's 100% of
100%.
your action economy.
Yeah.
Like it's unless you had your birds out or your dog, right? Then with a disarm, that was literally a nothing turn, which I mean means you can rest, but with kind of how much damage everything was doing, you didn't have time to rest.
Mm. And I found that I wasn't doing much of the healing. I mean, with a pet, with a dog with 5 health, with the owls on 3 or 2, I think it was 3. Like there was never a point that I really needed to heal, and it came down to the importance of something that I learned is that snowflake tops are really, really valuable, and all of the good stuff is based in the top. So definitely, if I'm disarmed, it's really bad. But also on the following turn, it's like, oh, do I play the 3 attack one, or do I make the pet move, or do I do a push and pull because they're
Mm.
positioned perfectly for the hazardous terrain, or do I ward something? Not that I'm going to do that in that situation. It's just so many good things are up the top. It's really hard to make the correct decision,
Yeah.
and it feels bad when obviously all the enemies draw their things, and you can see whatever you had planned out for your solo run is not going to fall apart because of what they're going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, again, the other side of the RNG is that in that run that you managed to complete it, right? Like, you got a fair few of those heal ally ones. Like, you got two or three of those that allowed you to. I think you got like a heal ally and uh, ward.
I've got one of those
And
in my deck.
yeah, that jumped on an hour, which stopped it. I mean, it only took one damage to a hit, and then you were getting healed. So you managed to, like you said, you kept one of them alive. And the difference in your damage output between you having one or two pets out and not is massive, considering you're
So
hitting for
big,
7.
so
Like,
big.
it's ridiculous. And I think that's one of the things in that scenario, because they've got such low life, you can't get in the way of all the attacks.
So there's a
And
tempo
yeah.
consideration ultimately, and I was ahead of the curve in some good draws and removing the monsters when there were less of them. And when I got ahead of it, I was like, I don't know if I can lose this apart from obviously some bad draws, which would
Mm,
then reset the tempo and make things. Because it got to the end, I was like, when this guy spawns, he's going to get ruined,
yeah.
and that's exactly what happened. And we were so far forward, the workers were just afterthought. They're just buff
Yeah.
bots sitting behind. I don't have to worry about that. So yeah, completed it. Got the snowflake item, which is really cool. I'm only level 6, so I feel like I'm not, stomping around at level 9 with this. I get to actually have a bit of time using it.
Mm.
What's really cool about this snowflake item, I've already forgotten, but it's a flipper. I can't remember what it does. There's something about allies
Push
movement
and
and
pulling.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, there's that. But it's a flipper in that when you use it, you flip it over to the other side, which also has another
Yeah.
usage, and then you flip, flip, flip. So I love that. That feels so good.
Yeah, that the I remember I didn't get it because I never tried the scenario, but the Geminate one was like that. I was looking forward
Oh
to having a
yeah.
play around with that because that was the first kind of flip card that we saw. And I think that's a really cool mechanic because it's like an item that you can use every turn.
Mm,
Right, but one of the sides is always more like the conditions are harder to meet, right?
mm,
Like it's not heal one or do one damage, right? Like on both one on each side. I think yours is pushing and pulling, meaning that you actually need to be able to do both of those things to flip it back over. So you
mm.
can't just keep spamming pushing. You've actually got to be able to do both. So,
Yeah.
or whatever it does.
How did you go
Me,
with the coral one? You've now
me with
had this is your second
coral.
attempt at it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I tried it. I'm gonna say I was level 5 because I reckon there's a card that I've got which I didn't have, and I reckon that must have been what I got at 6. So, um, or maybe even 4 because I feel like I've gotten 2 cards since then because I got another one when I leveled up. So I don't know, but yeah, look, it went a lot better. So, in short, the Coral solo scenario is, and there's a video up of me playing through it if you want to go watch it, of me losing it. So if you want to see me fail at stuff, then like there's video evidence now on the internet, and it's like a arena battle. So you start in, you've got 3 rounds until the first guy spawns.
A
Wait,
very one-sided, unfair arena battle.
What? Because it's 3v1.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you don't get to rest in between, right? You don't get to
Correct.
rest.
Yeah.
They come in on full health. Is yeah. So
So it's like an arena gauntlet, then I guess.
yes, that's
Yes,
it.
that's it. Yeah. So, yeah. So the first one spawns. I think 3 rounds in. So at the start of the third turn, it spawns. So because the crab plays a lot like playing these tide cards, which buffs some people who haven't seen it and don't mind spoilers. You get cards, you put them in front of you. They're kind of like persistence, but they're not. So that they're there. They give you a buff, and it might be +1 move, +1 shield, something like that. Some of them have a bit more complex stuff on them, and then you build this up, and then every time you rest they all go back together, and then they go back into your hand and you do a rest as per normal. So the kind of idea is that you build these up over turns and then they come back. And the way this arena fight works is that you get usually no usually you get rounds in between each boss to kind of
Mm.
get your stuff going. So it's a lot
Prep
about getting
round,
the timing right. Pardon?
prep rounds,
Yeah, prep rounds. Yeah, like it's
multiple.
literally the opposite of every Frosthaven scenario ever, where instead they're like, "Hey, have 3 prep rounds." So yeah, so it was pretty cool. Like it was fun to give it another crack. I think I did pretty well. I got through the like each of the bosses is a different type of crab monster as well. So I think the first one is the tide thrower, wave thrower,
With
who's
yeah.
yeah, so he summons a lightning eel at the end of every turn. And one of the things to make lightning eels work in this scenario is that they treat the entire one tile of the arena thing as water, so they can go and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But it doesn't count for me, which is bullshit,
Yes, for the
right?
purpose of movement and spawning.
But it's bullshit. I have a trait, and this is the other thing that I had that I didn't have the first time was if you or your target are occupying a water hex, gain advantage on your attack. I'm underwater. Like, how is that not occupying a
Well,
water
because you
hex?
didn't bring the text that says on your thing, "Oh, Coral takes this all the water tiles here as if it was water."
I'm
You didn't bring
underwater.
that. No, you
I'm
don't
under
know
the
that.
sea.
You
I'm
don't know that.
Sebastian. I
You're
sing
all
under
in a
the sea. That's
giant
it.
bubble, all
I'm
right?
not
You're
in
in
a
a giant
bubble.
bubble arena. Yeah,
Why
you
would I
are.
be in a bubble?
I don't know. It's your people. I have
I'm
no
not
idea.
bringing a bubble. Anyway, so yeah, the first one works like that, summons dudes and hits you and mobilizes. So it's usually not that much of an issue with the first one though, because the eels they don't do much damage, and if I've got my shields up, they kind of kill themselves on my shields. But I think in both, I ended up with doing 2 attempts. Spoilers, I didn't beat it. But yeah, that one was okay. The second one's one of the big core crusher ones, so the high armor, and that kind of they he hits really hard, and but again managed to push through him. I was a bit shaky by the time I got to the last guy, but in my first attempt last time, like a few weeks ago, I didn't actually get to the last guy, or I think I did, but I was on like 2 life, so I died
Mm.
instantly. So yeah, this time I got to actually experience it and see what it was all about. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And the third one is the Mine Snipper, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it does range attacks, which I hate range attacks because I've got a card that specifically doesn't want me to get attacked at range. It's like melee. So that's a bit of a shit. And he does a lot of damage. And oh no,
Retaliate 3.
retaliate. Sorry, he doesn't do much damage at all. He has retaliate 3, so I just killed myself heaps. So
What's interesting is with this, because you've got three very different bosses. You got one that's range attack immobilized with all of the eels constantly hitting you, which you love. You like that.
oh, I
And then
love it. So good.
you got big dude with a crazy amount of health and breaking your shields, and he's got that early attack card where he hits you really hard and also puts a shield up at the same time, which they didn't teach you when you went to Crab School. And then you got the last guy who's obviously ranged, the Mind Snipper, who does weird stuff, like in scenarios where he just goes, "Hey, you guys hit each other with
Mm.
disadvantage as well," and all of that. Do you then? Is it really cool that you have to? You've got three different fights. How do you plan for that?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's kind of like playing a like an old side scroller where you have a boss fight where the boss has 3 different phases, or you've got to fight like I remember there's one called ActRaiser where you have to refight every boss, and there's like 6 bosses. And it's kind of like that. Like you've got to prep and plan your item choices based on the fact that you have to fight all 3.
Mm,
It's kind of you can't just go hard in on one. So yeah, I think the way I ended up looking at it was I just need uh, it's gonna sound simple. I just need good damage and I need to be able to tank. Like that's kind of it because I'm always getting hit. And the thing that I don't do well is attack and do lots of damage. So I kind of had to shift my cards a little bit to increase my damage. When I
Which
say not normally, is in I guess compared to when we are in a scenario. Like primarily, I'm trying to tank and mitigate damage to allow everyone else to kind of come through that way. So this meant that I had to kind of, and I actually did. I took one of my shield cards out, and I put an offense card in, which was going to give me Pierce 2 and Wound, which is great against the shield guy because he's got 2 shields. So that worked well, but I think the main thing, yeah, it's just making sure that I've got that balance.
because you don't hit very hard, like in general. You kind of you hit consistently. Most of your damage has come from retaliates and staying alive and being a nuisance that way. It's just this last guy seems like a really brutal guy to fight at the end, being ranged and also like being ranged with innate muddle and retaliate 3. Like every time you attempt to hit him, you're probably going to be taking the same amount, if not more, back.
Mm.
Like, how the hell do you overcome that?
Yeah, well, I mean, in that first round, I got him down to 4 health, right? So I hit him, killed myself with the retaliate. So I think
Oh,
I went
yeah.
down to 0, and he
Yeah.
was on 4, and he was wounded, right? And I had my retaliate pot, which does 2 damage. So it's range retaliate, so that will still work. What I had a really quick run again after that. Like I just did a reset and ran, and I got booked by the first guy. It was just think I got to the point where I just got way too much damage from the eels, and it got to the point where I think I needed to burn a card or two. I was like, oh, this is a dead run. I can't do it this time. But one of the things I changed over was I put the tide card that gives all my attacks poison. So
Yes.
if I look and go, well, with poison on that last crab, I easily hit him 4 or 5 times, like at least, and that's 4 or 5 more damage, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what I draw. So I think, yeah, I think that's the thing with him having retaliate is just got to only do big attacks.
Yeah.
Doing a little baby attack is useless, especially as you said if I've got muddle, and so yeah.
What are your thoughts on solo scenarios as a whole? Are they important? Are they worth it? Are they fun?
Oh Jesus! All right, how long we got? Um,
No.
yeah.
Summarize.
Yeah, summarize. Okay, cool. So, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Can now elaborate.
Okay. So, I think solo scenarios are an awesome idea. Like, on paper, the idea of a mini puzzle that just you get to do is such a cool part of a game that encourages you to play with 4 but says you can play with 1 but doesn't really work with 1, right? Like, we've had these conversations and it's a topic for a different time of, you know, does it suit 2 players, right? Does it suit 1 player, etc. Solid scenarios are like, as you mentioned, it's a chance for you to test your skills. Like you've only got your cards, and that's why it's hilarious when I know Phil tried his, and we made jokes about Phil's doing nothing for 3 rounds and then doing everything. Is it tested him? And I wasn't there, so I only heard this third or second hand from you guys, but it tested him to be able to, okay, you don't have the rest of the party there. How are you going to get past those turns where normally you are able to sit back for a little bit? And that's really cool, right? Because it throws those characters into a situation that they're probably not as comfortable in, but it doesn't put a scenario on the line,
Hmm.
right? Like that's what sucks about. I think one of the things that sucks about these scenarios that we do, and we've talked about this, where they force you to play in a way that you don't want to play. And not
Hmm.
like, oh, you have to do an objective, but like you don't get to play your character, just pick, move, and attack cards, right?
Yeah.
The solo scenario is completely optional, and it doesn't matter if you fail them in a sense because you're not like wasting time in a sense. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not like, oh, we're not making any progress forward in the campaign, and we're getting stuck here. It's like, well, this is my own little puzzle. I can just do when I want.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, I think they're really, really cool, and they're an awesome idea. The execution, right?
Uh
It
huh.
is this is the part that's super hard. Okay, and I've got a couple of different thoughts on this. But before I go into that, what do you think of how they are in the game? Like, irrelevant of whether they should or shouldn't be. Like with what you've now seen, because you've seen the Deathwalker, the Snowflake. You saw the Bone Shaper as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you've seen mine. So you've seen four of them, right?
Yeah.
Like four of the ones we've had an opportunity to have a look at. How do you think they have been implemented?
In what way? What do you mean by they're
Like, I mean,
implemented?
are they like how do they work? Are they good? Like, I
Oh,
know you're the only person succeeded, right? Um,
yeah. I think that they are implemented fine. Yeah. I actually think that they're different enough. Now that I've seen so many, the way that they're done, some of them are run through and kill a boss. Others are kill everything. Others are more like a tower defense where you have to protect something.
mhm.
I think that they are playing quite true to the characters that are doing them, from a thematic point of view, and also from the way it's planned out and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So, you gonna throw a
So
spanner at me?
yeah, yeah, no, it's I'm just no, it's just curious because like I've thought about this a bit, and I've only heard you guys playing the ones you have, and I saw yours, and you mentioned that they have to be done at level 5, right? Or they're recommended, so I recommended at 5.
Well, yeah. This is where things get. Yeah. Yep.
Could you have? Do you reckon you could have completed yours at 5?
Probably not.
Do you reckon
Oh, someone
the
like it's doable at 5. I will definitely say that. Me personally, probably not.
what do you mean? What's the difference between a doable but you couldn't do it?
Someone who knows the game better than me and how the cards kind of how to utilize them probably better, probably could.
So this might be controversial, but like we just got off the back of you talking about your solo scenario and RNG being a massive factor in the fact that you're able to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the fact that you do have to have an element of luck because it's a single person scenario, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I'm not saying you can't do it at 5, but it would have been harder, right? Because I think you said you got that card at 6, which was a main damage card.
It's a multiple attack card in a scenario where your attacks are increased,
Yeah,
from a character that doesn't have a lot of AOE.
yeah.
So that's what made it good.
So the other example, and I didn't see Mark do his, but the Bone Shaper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Now he was about maybe 6 or 7 when he tried his. He definitely wasn't 8, yeah, because he didn't have the
he didn't
Bone
have the
Horde.
horde. No.
Do you reckon the Bone Shaper can do theirs at 5?
Uh, it's so long ago. It's kind of hard to. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, probably. Yeah.
So I guess when I talk about execution, the feeling I have, and I've only seen, like, I think mine with the crab is very hard at 5.
Mm.
Now, there could be a certain combination of cards you can choose that would allow you. I mean, it's even hard at 6 or 7, whatever I am. I feel like solo scenarios are in a weird place, which uh, you want them to be done when they have enough cards that it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
They need to be hard enough so that they're not just, oh, it's lol easy, just go get an item.
Correct.
But you don't want them to be so late that they get the item and then the item isn't used at all because
Correct.
they're level 9,
Yeah.
right? And at the same point, we don't always get to 9 with all the characters, right? Like it's, retirement, I know it's going to get later or higher the later we get with more retirements and all that, but it's probably going to be around 6, 7, 8 that people are going to retire. So there's a
Mm.
good chance that people are either completing them very close to retirement, or doing them and then retiring, right?
I guess I think that's what's adding to the appeal is that they're a real challenge, and the earlier you can maybe nail it, the more rewarding it's going to feel,
Yeah.
especially having that item earlier. Because they can't, if they were to open it up, obviously at level 1 or something, and it's scaled, that would be problematic in my head from an ease point of view. How the hell would they balance that? If they were making it achievable at level 1, that would be a balancing nightmare because you're either going to get this item really early that's going to be, catapult you from a power level point of view.
Mm.
But also, how do you make it hard enough for level 1s, but also, like, it's a scaling thing? Unless
Isn't
you
that
had.
how the whole game works though? Like you can attempt any scenario in the game with 4 level 1 characters.
I think it's more the fact that it's a solo scenario, though, that's all. And that makes it different. I know what you mean by everything else is scale. I think this is just
Mm.
intentionally, probably from a balance and from a just a universal ease kind of thing. If it's set at 5, we know that every solo scenario is going to be only startable at level 5, and therefore we can balance around the idea that it should, be super difficult, possibly doable at level 5, and then just get slightly easier as you level up. So it's kind of, I think it was a decision that's been kind of made around that.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, totally. I think 5 seems to be like that, and I know it's just a recommendation. It's not a hard fast rule, but it seems to be the best guess, right?
Mm.
And I think they're designed around the idea that you've got certain cards or got access to certain cards, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, so because they know exactly the class that's going to be in there. It's the only time in the entire design that they can tell exactly what classes character is going to be in that.
that's
And that
right.
probably allows them to go, well, we know they've got this card. I guess the challenge is which way people choose. Like you could choose a path. I think I saw online and someone mentioned, maybe it was in the Frosthaven Discord, because I don't really go to the subreddit, but someone mentioned as a full support snowflake, it was very, very tricky,
Mm.
right? And so that's the kind of situation where maybe you get locked out of it, which, I mean, maybe that's part of the game, right? Like it's, you should or shouldn't be able to do it. So yeah, I don't know. I think
I
the
agree. Yeah.
yeah, the execute like I said, the idea is great. I think the implementation of them is fine. Like I don't think it's bad at all, and I think
No.
they're enjoyable. And the ones I've seen look really cool. It's just a weird spot as to where they sit, right?
I guess what's good about this is it's not tied to anything that's absolutely compulsory in the
Yeah,
game, and it's still ultimately an optional EP challenge kind of thing to know that you can, do it, and
yeah,
say you
and
did
it
it.
yeah, you're right. And it seems like the items you get are a hey, cool, you worked really hard, and now you get this cool thing. Not hey, this is a critical component of your class to work.
Mm.
Because you're right, if they were core pieces, then you'd need to allow them to be done at level 1 or 2, but in which case then they become must.
Yeah.
They're like, if you have to have this item to make your class work, then
Mm.
you may as well just give them the item.
I mean, and that's testament to the characters that we've retired for already. None of them completed their solo scenario. Some of them attempted it, but we still were fine.
Yeah.
And it became a thing where it was like, if only I did it. Doesn't serve any other purpose other than knowing I did it, kind of thing. And look, this is my just general blanketing opinion on solo scenarios. I don't like solo games, more so because I don't think I've got the attention span to sit there and play a game on my own. And I know that solo gaming in general is a very big and popular thing in the world. And I think a lot of people, when they're backing a game on Kickstarter, knowing that it has a solo mode built into the game, and more games do now, which is really cool because it's just adding to the accessibility of how far these games can actually reach. I don't ever see myself, if a game was made up and it was purely solo scenarios, in Frosthaven or Gloomhaven, I wouldn't bat much of an eyelid to it. It's the fact that it is part of the overall campaign and the overall, the collection of what we are doing as a group, knowing that what I'm doing in that it's appreciated by people around me and also betters a character. It's a progression thing, which is why, back to the very start of this conversation about what are your thoughts on solo scenarios, I absolutely love them and I love the implementation, like what they've done in this game, because I would not play a solo game outside of it,
Mm.
essentially, especially one that had a puzzle element to it, right?
You
Because
love
that does
puzzles.
no, I definitely don't. But the way this one's done it, and it's around my character and my progression for our world, it's so cool because it's just like a switch. It's flicked it off in my head and made you go, "Hey, you want this? This is going to be fun." So no, very happy with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing kind of everyone else's. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing what Phil's is like when he gets to it. That's going to be a lot of fun. And when Mark does it on his trap, that's probably going to be like Minesweeper. It's going to be great.
One more question on solo scenarios, and then we can
Yeah,
move on.
yeah,
If there was a solo scenario chain or campaign for each class, so 4 or 5 scenarios,
yeah. I'll do
right?
it.
Would you do them?
Yeah, I'll do them.
Okay, cool.
Is it a separate thing to our campaign though, or is it it's just on
Yeah,
its own?
yeah, yeah. I think as soon as it becomes part of the campaign, it's not really. It's just a, yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's
If they release the solo campaign that I do on my own, I'd be interested, but not like frothing at the idea of doing it. It'd be there, and I'd be like, oh, I should get to doing that at some stage. But who cares? Would
Yeah.
be what goes through my mind. I like the fact that it's working towards something else.
Mm.
So yes, I would definitely would. All right, let's have a little chat about the personal quest system at the moment. Um, are you satisfied with the current personal quest system that's currently implemented in the game?
Sure.
Okay. This is a question that goes to someone that has not prepped for an answer at all.
I didn't even know the question.
The personal
So
quest system. Okay, so compared to Gloomhaven.
it's like exactly the same.
Okay, so one of them. Okay, let's just split this up a little bit. One of them is unlocking buildings, right? And the other one's unlocking characters.
Okay.
And then diverge a little bit more into some of the variety and choices. So in Gloomhaven, for example, I remember flatly there was one that was like exhaust 5 times or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And
Dumb.
I look at that and I'm like, that's dumb,
Yep. Dumb.
right? But then you've got the ones that we've got. These are newly, they've had all of Gloomhaven to think about it and come up with these ones. And we've had the ones that we've had around money and around collecting lumber and going to a thing. And we've got mine, which is just a flat out quest chain. What are your thoughts on like the way they've done it this time as opposed to what they did in the past?
Yeah, like I saw most of the ones from Gloomhaven, and these seem just to be the better versions of those. Like they've just cherry picked the things that are good, and they've put them in here. Like I haven't seen any dumb ones yet. I think I've seen two. What have we had so far without going into detail? We've had kill a bunch of stuff. We've had do a quest chain, which is yours. We've had one that was like collect a bunch of stuff, then do a quest chain.
We've
And
had random people with or without names.
yeah, I mean that's an interesting one. I mean that probably falls. It's hard, right? Like I think that's cool and interesting, but it's also dumb. Like it's it's like it's a cool idea and it's different and it allows you to it's like a design space to explore, right? You're getting these events, you're meeting people, you're marking it down, but at the same point it's dumb because you have no control over it. I feel like the PQs you should probably have control over at least something. Like are you
Look,
choosing to go this way? Are you making that decision? Are you choosing to collect these items? Where yours was literally just like spin the roulette wheel,
some
right?
of it
Like,
though is like knowing this in advance though. So you're given two. You know, I know what you mean. It's the fact that they're kind of in there as the choice, but I can choose not to have it.
what if
Which
there's
then,
another dumb one that was like,
yeah,
what if there's one in there that's like go through seven events and don't meet a named person, and you pick both of those, right? Like, I mean, I get it. Yeah, it makes sense, right? You could just not choose that one, and again, I don't know if there are other ones that aren't dumb, but and don't get me wrong, anyone who's going to be like, "Oh, Gareth hates these things," it's like, no, I think it's fun, but PQs are an interesting space because some people want to complete them as quickly as they can,
yeah,
and other people want to drag them out as long as they can.
yeah.
The
That's my issue.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, and it's related to PQs because they're the trigger for it, but I think the bigger, I won't say problem, but gray area, which I'm not sure about, is unlocks and what they've tied unlocks to.
Right.
Because, and there's good and bad, and I think we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, right? It's that in Gloomhaven, you finish your PQ, you unlock the class, and you generally played that class,
Yeah.
right? And then once you'd unlocked all the classes, you get items. Cool, that's fine. Now the having the classes unlocked by random events of some form, right? Like buildings or do a thing or whatever it is cool because it's a mystery, right? Like
Mm.
it's a you don't know when you're going to get another class, which is cool. But we've had a couple of people retire and it's been super anticlimactic, right? Like, oh hey, you retired. Oh here you get this building. You're like, oh okay, that's cool, I guess, but I
Kind
don't get
of.
anything. Now, again, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying
Okay.
two different experiences,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
right?
totally get that. There is a
You
lot of
know?
excitement about unlocking a character, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Versus a garden.
Correct, right? And I mean like as someone who didn't just complete that PQ and is not retiring a character, the fact that we just unlocked a garden and again, I won't go into what it does because it's spoilers, but that's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah.
But but for the person, you're like, oh yeah, that's cool, I guess.
Well, because we building it up though in a different way. It's a different feeling because it's a different system. So at the moment, when we are heading towards the end of a retirement and we know it's coming, it's already pre-planned as to what character that person's going to take next, and that in itself is already going to be kind of exciting. It's just
Mm.
different because you're literally going, I know I'm packing this up, and I know I'm picking that, and everyone knows I'm picking that, which means I get to finally unlock that, and there's still excitement there. It's definitely it's a timing thing. It's just different.
Mm.
I mean, when we
And
unlock a character, it's exciting. It's just it sits on the shelf, and then it's there waiting for all of us to work out when it's going to come out.
well, that's the other side of it, and I think you were really right when you pointed that out, and I think you're just talking about it now is that when it in the Gloomhaven system, it was finish your PQ, unlock a character, and 99% of the time, the person was picking that character to play.
Correct. Yeah.
Unless there was something sitting on the sidelines they really wanted to play, right?
Mm.
Whereas it now, it is more of a build up because we're getting these characters and they're sitting now. That kind of builds. It's just hype in a different way, right? Like in Gloomhaven, you got hyped over the symbol, right? You're like, oh, I wonder what that symbol is. That looks really cool, and it's mine, right?
Mm.
Like as in, that's my symbol. That's my next character. I already know I'm going to play that character, but I don't know what it is. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, and we haven't really had the case where we've had multiple characters open, other than the starter ones as well,
Mm.
right? But we've had a one or two where it's been like, oh, here they are, right? And they're sitting there for ages, so the next person to retire can get one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a different feeling. But going back to my point about the unlocks is that I think that's where the PQ thing becomes a bit weird because in Gloomhaven it didn't really matter at what pace you unlocked characters at because you weren't unlocking things that impacted the game as much as they were just characters. Now it does, right?
Yes.
And we've heard a little bit about this in like through the Discord and some discussions where it's like people are like, no, I don't want to retire. It's like you have to retire. Like the progression of the game and development of Frosthaven is basically based around you retiring characters. And from what I understand, it's built around the idea that you retire a character roughly 15 scenarios ish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they're planning on the buildings you get and getting through these different decks and events and unlocks and stuff like that on that progression, then you sitting on a character for 30 scenarios just completely throws it out of whack.
I know. And I think in that conversation that was happening, it was like, well, if you fall in love with your character, it's kind of rough because when you get to level 9, it's probably gonna hit like a brick shit house anyway and screw everything up. Which means you're probably gonna have to increase difficulty at least just to make it somewhat challenging, right? So one guy running around on that. With the PQ system, what I really, really, really loved about the PQ system from Gloomhaven that Frosthaven is lacking was the fact that because you were right, it's tied to you and your character unlock. It wasn't tied to Gloomhaven getting stronger and unlocking other things for our campaign progression, which meant that you could sit on a little bit more. But also, I don't. In our game, we didn't reveal them; they were secret, right? In Gloomhaven, it was fun to actually sit there and go, "Well, it's my personal quest," and we didn't show each other
Mm.
what they were, right? We're encouraged to talk about what we need to do here because it's going to unlock buildings that we're all going to need. Right, so generally, it started off. The campaign actually started off. I was looking at mine. I was like, "Oh, I don't really understand what this means, etc." I may have shared it with you a little bit just to get some clarity over it. They started off kind of secret. Even Phil was being shady about his. It's gotten to the point where everyone's just like, "Oh, here's mine. This is what I have to do." Right? Mine's unlocking this. Someone needs to collect this. Yours is actually still secretive, actually, which is actually pretty good. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's kind
Mm.
of. It's like we work together to complete this? We're more inclined to do that because we know we need buildings to unlock. And that's
Yeah.
the feeling is different. I like sitting on something secret that, I'm shadedly trying to complete. Just like what the Battle God system is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's bad by any stretch, but there's definitely, I think it's with adding more complexity to it for the way that it unlocks buildings which impact everyone and the progression of the game.
Mm,
It's made it more interesting, but also made there more points of failure.
mm,
Like as
okay.
in the system can fall down in different parts.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's recommended or if it's mentioned that people should retire. Like I don't remember reading the rulebook that clearly, where it's like, you know, buildings are tied to unlocks. You should probably retire your characters like every 15 scenarios,
Mm,
because I know that advice has been thrown around a little bit in the Discord, which is it's
yeah,
just good because you let people know that they need to do it. But yeah, maybe that's just one way of combating that, letting know that
mm,
they have to drive the storyline forward.
yeah.
But like the worst case scenario, I was reading this as a discussion on the Discord the other day, where someone's like, I've got a person in my group, and they just really are not enjoying their character, right? They just don't enjoy it. They're not enjoying it. And we're wondering, what we should do. And I can't remember what the suggestions from them were, but it was basically like speeding up the PQ or allowing them to just switch or something like that,
I think
right?
I read this.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it was really interesting. Like, this is one of the things that I love about this community is that there was a lot of there was a lot of really positive responses, right, around different things you could do. There was some other, like, cool, this is just a skill issue. But I feel like that was more, it's just jokes about talking about a certain class. I mean, one guess of what the class is.
Gemini.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like the most polarizing character out there. But
absolutely.
I think it's a genuine concern, right? And like when I was reading what this person was saying about their friend, I was like, I felt a bit because I love playing with you guys and I want everyone to have fun, right?
Same.
That's the thing. If one person was sitting there not having fun, I'd be like, okay, we need to talk about this, even if we need to house rule something, right? This person needs to have fun as well, because otherwise there's no point doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And if someone was
but we also
forced
don't have
in,
skill issues.
pardon?
We also don't have skill issues.
No, correct. Right. But if someone was forced into that hole because they were like, oh, well, we have to keep driving forward and retiring characters, right? And then they come out and they're just really not enjoying it, and there
Yeah,
isn't really any other option, right? Because we haven't unlocked characters, then that kind of just lands in a really awkward spot. It's like, well, you can stop playing that character and start and play a character that you've already played that you know you had fun with, right? But at that point, it's kind of repeating. It's like, well, now you have to do that until we unlock another character, which we don't know when that's going to happen. All right. So I
yeah.
guess that's the kind of the part that I could see it being worst case scenario,
Mm.
right? That this system based on, right?
Yes.
But again, just to argue with myself, I was playing Gloomhaven online, unlocked the 2 mini one with the bear, played like one or two scenarios with him, went, nah, I hate this. This is crap. I know a lot of people really enjoy that one, but I was just like, I just cannot be bothered. So I benched it, played a different character. Mate that I was playing with, he took it over when he retired his next one, and then I took over the thing that he unlocked when he retired.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, but so we just did a switcheroo like that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not saying Gloomhaven is a perfect system either.
No, no. Yeah. There's been a lot of various topics on. I think that may be the same person, it may be a different person, but it was a very similar story where someone was really against something, and they were like rushing the PQ, rushing the PQ. And then he got to like towards the end of the PQ, and he was like, "Actually, I don't mind this. This is actually pretty." And then boom, retirement. And it was kind of
Yeah.
like, "Oh no."
Yeah, well, I that's the advice I would give for anyone who is touched the Germinate and didn't like it, or is scared of touching it because they've heard such bad stuff, right? Once you hit about 5 or 6, it really becomes a lot of fun. Now, that's
Mm,
not to say you have to push through 5 levels and it's boring, right? But there is a kind of a couple of puzzle pieces that come together to make you really enjoy it. But again, if you don't like it for the first 3 levels, like you just don't like the way it plays, you're probably not going to like it for the rest of the class either.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Hmm. Can't wait for more tricky classes. See what we get.
Well, we've got the trap now, which just looks like I am so glad I'm not playing that, and not because I don't think it looks good. I think it looks like a lot of fun, but again, remember where I came from, right? I
Yeah.
came from the Gemini, and I was like, I want something that is not simple, but I don't want to play 4D chess again. And going to the crab was perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Going to the trap, I know people recommended it for me, and I can see why, but not from one to the other. Like, it would have just melted my brain.
So we're gonna revisit this chat in about 3 weeks' time when our trap is no longer having fun with the game, and because he doesn't really enjoy the trap class. But
Well,
it's
just suck
probably
it
a
up.
skill issue.
Yeah, it's probably a skill issue. Yeah.
That's right. All right. So, if we could take it back, what moments would you want to do over in our campaign? I'll start. Scenario me. No, not scenario me. Me first. Scenario 13, which was the Frozen Fjord or whatever it was, with the double bridge one, right? When it was me and the Bone
The
Shaper and all that.
speedy wind demons.
Yeah, my card choices. Card choices were terrible, and when it came to short resting and removing a card, I removed my only move 4. So I didn't bring the momentum, the movement persistent on the drifter, and then lost my move 4. So I was walking around really slowly while everything was dying and zooming around me, and it led to a bad time.
Okay.
I'd also say another one in there.
Would you want me
Drift.
to go?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, do you have one?
Oh yeah,
Because
totally.
I'm just throwing these at you. That's why I was like, do you want a moment to
Nah,
think
that's
about
right. Yeah,
it?
no, zero prep, right? That's how we work. Frosthaven, my life, whatever. So I would take it back. The scenario where I burnt a card on my first turn and then decided that I needed to melt my hand over the next 5 turns so I could hit my mastery. And then I proceeded to sit there for about an hour and a half and watch you guys play and struggle through what looked to be a really fun scenario with some oozes.
It was
And
fun.
the most I could do was pray.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you had failed it, not only would I have felt massively responsible, I also sat there for an hour and a half and did nothing, but then I don't get my mastery either.
Mm. No, that's
Yeah,
true. I mean, look, you got your mastery. Okay,
I
that
did.
there was something there. It wasn't for nothing. In fact, you're the only person who's gotten their masteries in this. Oh no, Mark got his as well. But yeah, you got one on the Gemini and you've got one on the Coral.
Yeah,
Almost
one
got
of
your
my
second
crab.
one as well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Drifter perks. So I have a double perk that allows me to, I believe it's at the end of the scenario, I can actually discard certain loot cards to redraw from the loot deck. I wish I kind of picked that up maybe and took that with us to get some of those chests. I feel like that was a missed opportunity for half our campaign.
That did not know that existed. And I also wish that you had taken that.
Yeah. Is that
Yep.
yours as well?
Yes, I wish you had taken that perk. That would have been great. We would have got some more items. So.
Yes.
Another one I wish we could take back, and this was I feel like I I take back not standing up and arguing more about the decision. Okay, was a certain outpost event where we chose to be dodgy and not the right path, and it failed miserably, and we did not get rewarded for it. And it was morally the wrong decision. I'm not going to say which one because of spoilers, but I feel like that was where a couple of people in the group decided they wanted to. Oh yeah, let's do the dodgy thing, and I felt like, oh, I just don't feel right about this. I think this is going to be bad, and it was.
I think I
And
know which one you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, I
But you
think
wish you
someone was
spoke up
hoping
more
for
and
a really awesome heirloom sword and ended up it not getting that.
uh-huh.
Just getting sad people.
Yeah, was it Return the Sender?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Um, Not getting my Drifter Mastery. I'm actually a bit bummed I didn't get that. I had one scenario where I almost got that, but also I didn't really put a lot of effort into trying to get either. And I'm realizing that because I'm in the same boat right now as my Snowflake. I've never even once attempted it on either one. And maybe, I think that some of it is in my head as to when's the right time to do this. And I have to, with both of mine, I have to make that decision at the very start, right? I think the right thing to do would actually be to wait for not the three main quest line ones because we found that some of the other ones are a little bit easier.
Mm,
Like if I was doing it on Mark's retirement ones, things like that, that would have
yep.
been, I should have gone for him then. So look, wish I could go back and probably at least pop one of those because I think that would have been very helpful.
I'm
Instead of
sure we will do another side scenario.
well, I've got my retirement ones coming up.
There you
There's
go.
still 3 more. So
Yeah, exactly. It's probably a good one to do. I would take back probably the. Well, actually, sorry. No, before I say that, just with the masteries, and you're talking about like, you have to plan it out.
mm,
Both of the ones that I've accomplished on my Geminate and my crab have not been that at all. Like my Geminate one, I didn't plan from the start. I just realized after 2 turns that I burnt 5 cards. I was like, oh, okay, well, I may as well just burn the rest of
Keep
my deck.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. And my crab one, I didn't realize until the very end of the scenario. It was like 2 turns away. I'm like, wait, I haven't rested. Wait, I have like all my tide cards out. Okay, if I just rest now and then don't rest again, I get my mastery. So that was complete accident.
Yeah, I wish I
Uh,
could accidentally do mine. I have to
yeah, yeah,
track both of mine really heavily.
yeah. So I would probably the same thing as your drifter. I would take back not attempting the Geminate solo scenario, just because
Yeah.
I just want to like just see it. Like we haven't seen it, we don't know what's in it, and I just like to know what kind of puzzle they presented on a class that was made of puzzles, right? Like it's just one big bag of puzzles, and I would have been really interested to see how they push that through.
100%. We didn't even consider it doing them. They came in the separate. They came later than everything else, and I kind of put it to the side, and I was like, I don't see what this is. Not until we got talking about Phil's Deathwalker Mastery, and someone, I think it was Iron Wine. I think it was him. If not, I'm sorry, and Iron Wine, you're cool. But if he was like saying, if he does his solo scenario, there's an item that will really help him get his mastery. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, there's items in the solo scenario? Let's have a look at this. Oh my god, look at these. It was like,
Yeah. So now everyone understands why he didn't realize that he owned the solo scenarios in Gloomhaven, right?
because
Because he
I
doesn't read
didn't.
anything.
No, I didn't. But yes, if we had done all that, and this was, I think, well past Drifter and Geminate, or towards the end, and
Yeah.
it was hard to find time to get together and do them.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely towards the end. You were probably really close with the Drifter, and I reckon that I was getting close with the Gemini. And I mean, we just didn't time wise didn't have an opportunity to do it because I know that when Phil and Mark attempted theirs, which might have been separately, but that was on like different days where you guys were able to start early. So yeah,
My last one is the Algox quest line leading up to the meeting. I would take back my choice. So I kind of decided which scenario we were going to do. And it was like, do we go to the meeting or do we go with what's her name to, take on the Ice Speaker assault kind of thing? And I was like, oh, let's go to the meeting. I would take back my choice of going to the meeting and then be stuck deciding which one I would want to do because I hate the fact that I made a decision. And I would sit here and still be confused as to which one to do, and I'd make someone else choose because I don't like that pressure.
so you're taking back your decision not because you made the wrong decision, but because you made a decision.
Correct.
Okay, so you want to go back to when you were indecisive.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just too stressful. I don't like making these massive decisions that's going to determine where the group is going to go. If it was just me and they were like, well, Daddy, pick a path, it's which solo's branch do you want? Your thing, it would have been different.
I love that it's so stressful that even after you've made the decision weeks ago and we're well down the path, you're still stressed out about the fact that you had to make the decision in the first place.
What could have happened if we didn't
Yeah,
go to the
anything.
meeting? I
Unlimited.
know.
Yeah, I know. Unlimited power. I don't know. I don't really think I can I don't really think I can think of any more.
No, that's fine. You're just better than me.
I do regret not taking the poison card in my last run on my solo scenario crab because I think I would have done it.
You would have. I think you
Mm,
would have too. Just based on seeing how effective it was in the second run. Yeah. Yeah.
yep, yep. And
But
there was a card that I literally barely used at all that I don't think would have had much difference in the outcome.
and he brought that.
Pardon?
And he brought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
fine. That's right. That's why we have these reflections. That's why we can look back, and hopefully there's another crab guy out there who's going to be like, oh, poison card, gotcha. What's the other card? What was the other crab card that I shouldn't be bringing? Our campaign status. All right, so we're 1 year and 2 days in. All right, we've completed our first year of summer and winter. We're back into summer. Really exciting. We maxed out our morale. In fact, we're now working towards tanking it. Is that right?
yeah, like all right, Frosthaven, you're way too happy at the moment. Like this is getting out of control.
Well, it's not like I could be wrong here, but it's not like if we lose the morale, obviously our defenses go down a little bit, so there's that to worry about when we get attacked. But it's not like the barracks and the soldier limit, kind of like, oh, morale's going down, you two are fired, and now you two are fired, and we just get less soldiers.
Yeah.
Don't
Although
know.
it's funny because we probably don't want to start tanking it now. Like we'll tank it and we'll be like, yes, we finally reached the bottom, and then we'll get into winter and just start getting whacked. Like, oh, we did this wrong.
Yeah, we didn't time this.
Mm.
We are 3 boxes off Prosperity 5. I didn't know that. until I went and grabbed the campaign sheet. I knew that we were like halfway. We've obviously been getting a lot of prosperity, but that seems pretty big. Is
Is
that
it?
right?
Huh? Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah, we're 3 boxes off prosperity
Yeah.
5. That's nuts. I feel like
Yeah,
that's
it's like one of those journeys, like where you never think you're ever going to get there. When we started ticking off boxes in the 5 category, because those that know what the campaign sheet looks like, each prosperity level gets more boxes to get through to get to the next one. I remember when we started the next one, I think someone must have retired and like, oh, how far are we off 5? I was like, not even almost.
no.
Like we're like 2 boxes into like the 50 boxes we need.
I just feel like sorry, I want to grab this again. How many? So there's 9 levels of prosperity, and yes, those rows definitely get very large and very long. But it just feels like we're 1 year in and nearly at 5 already. It just feels really good.
Yeah, I
I got
think
nothing.
we've
I got
been.
nothing to base this on, and nothing to compare it to. So
Well, yeah, we've been lucky with a couple of things as well, but I don't know how common that is. I don't know whether we've been like more like above average luck for getting the prosperity or what. But yeah, it's an interesting point.
that's all right. Someone will crunch the numbers and then get back to us and be like, "Well, you guys are doing something real wrong. You guys are
Yeah,
actually at
yeah,
three
that's
point
it.
five."
Yeah, they're like you're supposed to be 7 by now.
We've had 4 retirements. We're now running Daddy, Snowflake 6, Gaz, Coral. Are you 6?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know what level everyone else is that's not
Yeah,
me
I think
is.
I'm 6. I think Phil's 3 now.
Phil's
Oh
3.
no, no, Phil I think is 3, but we haven't gone back to Frosthaven.
No, because we still have to finish scenario 45.
Yeah.
And Mark is level 2 trap. All right, Phil level 3 media, Mark level 2 trap. That's our current composition. That's our current levels. Phil's level 3, not level 4. Like I keep saying he's level 4 for some reason. Now, the scenarios that we have to do, and I think this is pretty cool. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. We have 10 scenarios that we can do. All right, including the one that we're banging our head against now, which is we've only tried once. So we have scenario 15 we can go to. We have scenario 42, 43, and I'm just saying these to the listeners who may know what these are tied to. We obviously don't know. We know which branches some of these are in, and we know which ones are side scenarios, but we don't know, obviously, what the scenario entails. So 15, 42, 43, 45. Now, that's the one we're doing at the moment. It's part of the Algox quest chain. And after this would probably be 46. Not necessarily straight after this scenario, but that's the next one in that quest chain. And then we go into, I believe, their event or random ones left, and they're all over 100. So we have 107 and 108. These ones will be like Mansion on the Hill and event one, dude, some grotto place, and all of that. And then we have 111, 113, and 120, which was that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the one I want to do.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm curious. Out of these, which are the spicy ones? 15, 42, 43, 45, 46, 107, 108, 111, 113, and 120. I'm just curious if anyone wants to guide us and be like, oh, can you do this one next? I want to hear what this one is. And then maybe we can line that one up after we do 45. If it sounds good, if it sounds worthwhile, we can hit up maybe a spicy one.
All right. Yeah. So if you want to let us know, just all you have to do, you can't tell us why, but just a number and one word. Right. That's it. One word. You can't. No cheating about joining words together. Just one word as to why we should do it.
And don't say 14. Like, don't pick the scenario and then say 14. Because that we hint that we'll hate it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. True. True.
All right. Well, that's what I have as everything to in my notes
Yeah. And I
on
didn't
my
prep
run
anything,
sheet.
so.
No, I do have last week's notes here. It says thoughts on scenario, Gaz.
Oh.
Was this an
What?
Ormy? Was this an Ormy episode?
Oh, an Ormi episode. I think Ormi would do pretty well in both our solo scenarios. I could have used him.
Yeah, I reckon you could have. I would have been in trouble.
Oh,
I think. I reckon I'd be in
actually,
trouble.
nah, he probably would have got booked by the eels.
Yeah, possibly. I think he would actually be. Well, it depends. Does he get my buff? If he gets my damage buff, I totally want him.
Yeah, or nah, he's not. He's an ally. He's not a summon.
Yeah, okay. If he got my buff, I'd take him. Otherwise, I don't want his shitty 2 damage. Not to discount
Although
what he can
I
do.
don't know, I'd have to reread the thing because I wonder if you get the rune workers to move and attack if they use your deck.
Oh, I don't think. I thought about that. I don't think they can attack. I don't think they can do anything.
Oh.
No idea. Absolutely no idea. All right. Well, we will wrap it up here. And I did mention this to Calvin actually when he was over here before. He was coming over and he was watching me with my Word document here with, a standard run sheet and all that kind of stuff. And I said, hey, can you put together one of those things at the end where you can do our plugs, and you can do all of our this has been an episode of amDirt, blah 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 blah. Can you do one of those? And he's like, can I do it in a British accent? I was like, yes, of course you can. So he might do it.
He might?
I have to set it up. I have to set it up so that I can
Okay.
just press a button and it does it. So I don't have to do it anymore. But
So,
I guess, yeah.
are you going to leave a space now for it, or are you just going to do it?
No, I'll do it now. I'm not gonna have time to get him ready and all of that for this. I'm gonna do it my sloppy way. All right. If you'd like to contact us, email us at contact@rollingterrorly.com. We can be found on Instagram at am_dirt, Twitter at umdirt, and youtube.com/amdirt. I have been your host, Daddy, and joining me again was the smartest person ever, Cass.
Yeah, I feel like that whole chocolate comment maybe dropped me down a couple of rungs, but that will be next week, right? That'll be what you can have looked forward to on next week's discussion, as usual. So yes, I have been Gaz, and remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all in the wrist.